Dogs don't use toilet paper, so why do you? Somebody asked me on Instagram, they're like, why do you eat the same thing every day? I was like, because that's the most efficient way to survive, is to eat the same thing every day. You know, not every meal has to be the same, but if you have the exact same foods in the same order every day, or if you just eat one thing that you digest really well every day, then you'll go to the bathroom like a dog. Dogs eat the same thing every day, and dogs have perfect digestion. You never see a dog have a hard time going to the bathroom, and it's always the same, and they don't need toilet paper. Dogs have perfect digestion systems. And in our culture, in 2019, it could be fucked up. I know that there's some crazy people who give their dog anxiety medication, antidepressants. They basically treat their dogs as terrible as they treat themselves. And things are going down the toilet. But the point is I've, raised dogs my whole life. My mom used to watch dogs. And so we might have 10, 20, 30 dogs at the house at a time 20 years ago. None of them really had accidents because they all ate their food. If they ate someone else's food, then they'd have an accident. I used to have a girlfriend who was a dog breeder. So there'd be 14 dogs in the house at any given time. Fed them. And they all went to the bathroom pretty much the same. Never in the house, always outside, never had an accident. Because all 14 dogs ate the same fucking dog food every goddamn day. So the people who have the worst digestive tracts are always the people that are eating the most toxic, worthless shit. Man-made food. Specifically, I find gluten and dairy. Pretty much anyone you take off of gluten and dairy and you put them back on gluten and dairy, it's just like cruel abuse. It's like a grenade went off in their intestines. That it's horribly painful and uncomfortable. And I can only imagine if it's that painful for it to move through them, how painful it must be for it to come out and what a mess it makes. That's why I eat the same thing every day. Even my cheat meals are structured and regular. Like, it'll be the same cheat meal on the same day at the same time. If it's pizza, it's the same pizza from the same place with the same toppings. Because I want my body to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, because it's got all the enzymes in place for that to happen. And it gets really complicated to go into it from there, but that would be way over people's heads, because if people aren't smart enough to notice that their dog doesn't need toilet paper and they do, and that the reason is because the dogs eat the same food every day and they eat different foods every day. If they're not smart enough to make that connection, then it's pointless for me to try to teach anything more complicated than that. It's like square peg, square hole, round peg, round hole, and they're slamming the square peg in the round hole, crying, going, "Vay, vay, vay." It's like I'm not going to be able to explain to them the amount of electron density on the surface of the square peg is different, the amount of electron density in the center of the square peg, or that if we change the dimensional cortex and switch to the dimensional plane of Quandor, and then we had a purple sun, they just don't need that much detail. Because you need to master square peg, square hole, round peg, round hole. So your dog has perfect digestion, doesn't need to wipe its ass because it eats the same food every day. And so if you want to have perfect digestion, you should be eating the same food every day. Also, you don't give your dog sugar, you don't give your dog gluten, and you don't give your dog dairy. So I can understand why people care more about their pets than they do themselves. But why would you care more about your dogs than you care about your kids? Because most people feed their kids gluten and sugar and dairy. And they have all types of behavioral problems in school, learning disabilities, and digestive issues. Why don't you try to take care of the humans that you love? Because I know people love their kids. They just, if they haven't, they're not smart enough to make the connection, that the dog's diet's better than their kids or their diet, then they're not smart enough to realize they should switch the structure of the nutritional plan that they and their kids are on to that as structured and intelligent as their dogs. You know, it's just people aren't that smart. That's why people always like what I have to say is I'm able to take something really complicated and make it really simple and use a metaphor like dogs don't need toilet paper to make something irrefutably obvious. And you're like, how the fuck did I never notice that? And that's my gift is I have a pattern recognition and a communication style that allows me to give someone the cold hard truth very fast and effectively. And that brutal truth is often very hard for people to accept, especially in our exceptionally sensitive, weak culture that we have today. 20, 30 years ago, it was way easier to get along with people because you could tell them the truth and they'd appreciate it. Nowadays, I had my buddy who's a lawyer says, you're better to never give people the truth because it's hearing the truth that makes these people snap and shoot up schools. And I was just like, maybe if they were treated a little bit more roughly their whole life, they'd be better capable of coping with their feelings and they wouldn't react so explosively. But having these super pampered, needy, weak humans, their whole life they've never had to deal with reality, and then boom, they hit high school and now they have to deal with the real life is painful and miserable. That's when they can't handle it. So just a different take on it. The brutal truth is if you should treat you and your family as good as you treat your dog and feed them the same thing every day. Now, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not smart enough to design a perfectly nutritious meal plan for my kids and myself every day. Well, here's ready. Freya's Garden has everything figured out for you. So if you use Freya's Garden at valhalla-labs.com, every man, woman, and child on the planet should be using it. I made it to be perfect, so that's what it is. And as far as food goes, the vegans might be upset about this, but we have eyes in the front of our head, and we have fangs for slicing through flesh. So the optimal diet for health, not morality, but for health, would involve protein in the form of animal protein and vegetables. And if you're going to have carbs in there, starches. So my favorite choices are chicken, rice, and peas. It's simple. And you can do the macros and figure it all out. I don't want to tell someone what the nutritional requirements are because sometimes they have low or high, this or that. There's an article on the toddleemd.com website called 9 Steps to the Better Body that has it all figured out. Really simple. It's like if you know how much you weigh, thank fucking God, because there's people who don't, but 1 gram of protein per pound body weight is a safe bet. Although it's safe to go as high as 2 grams per pound if you're lifting and all that. As far as carbs go, it can range depending on your metabolism, but generally you want to have at least 150 carbs a day. And then fat, I believe it should be kept to a minimum. The only healthy sources of fat that are necessary are the omega-3s found in krill or fish oil. And then you need about 3 grams of active ingredient a day. So that's like 10 regular strength fish oil capsules or 3 triple strength fish oil capsules. So like people are like, well, I don't want to live my life like that. It's like, you're right. You being healthy and having a good, healthy digestive tract, not getting colon cancer and never having to wipe your ass, that's not as important to you as giving yourself cancer and heart disease with dairy, bread, and sugar. But there are people watching this who are smart enough to actually listen. And if you switch to lean meat like chicken breast, turkey breast, white fish, and you got to keep track of if you give a fuck about hard metals and all that. I'm not going to tell someone that kind of crap. But the point is I stick to chicken breast. I digest that the best. I digest white rice the best. I use jasmine rice if I'm trying to gain weight, basmati rice if I'm trying to lose weight, because the glycemic index switches from 110 to 55. So it's half as heavy of an insulin response to go from jasmine to basmati. And then I use peas because to me, it's the perfect blend of protein, fiber, carbs. It's like 4-4-4. Everything's fours. So as I want to get leaner, I switch cups of rice to cups of peas. So I might start with 10 cups of rice, 5 cups of peas, and then every 2 weeks I switch one of the cups of rice to a cup of peas. So that at the end of the day, I'm having, 15 cups of peas to go with my 3 pounds of chicken. Not fucking hard. And Freya's Garden will fill in the gaps for fruits, vegetables, herbs, minerals, vitamins. It's got digestive enzymes to digest the food for you. It's got probiotics. It's got everything. It was like, I am lazy as fuck and I want to just eat chicken and rice. What do I need to take with that chicken and rice to prevent my death? And Freya's Garden is it, and I get the fiber from the peas. So, obviously I'm not suggesting if you want to lose fat the fastest, start with 15 cups of peas. No, I'm talking about me. You're not me. Trust me, you're not. And you're not going to have the same exact diet as me. Now, if you want me to hand do your diet, because there's almost no chance in hell you're going to be as good as me, then go to toddliamd.com, and on the homepage there's diets. Purchase one, and it's a coaching package. So if you take a 12-month package, it means that every week you're going to send me data, and I'm going to analyze that data and make changes to your diet. Like if your dog dies and you want to talk about it, that's cool, but it's not really there for therapy. It's not like, I'm not a cheerleader, I'm a coach. So think Rocky IV, don't think like Breakfast Club. That's the big difference. Is I'm like one of those scientists in the lab coat watching Ivan Drago smashing shit, and he's like, if he dies, he dies. That's what I want. I want Ivan Dragos, and I'm the analyst who determines this is how much of this we use. We're going to increase the cardio 5 minutes. We're going to switch a half a cup of rice to a half a cup of peas this week. It's not about like, motivate me. And it's like, my job is to grab you and drag you kicking and screaming across the finish line while you're drinking Jack Daniels and you're spitting out Skol. No, that's not a coach. It's an enabling cheerleader. Most people think of coaching as enabling cheerleading. It's not. It's data analysis, and I'm fucking awesome at it. So if you want progress, hire me. If you want to just live your life with a perfect intestinal tract and not wipe your ass, take a lesson from your dog and eat the same thing every day.